is that at any point in your life, using the clarity of your mind and the power of your own emotions, you can decide to change your life. Once upon a time, there was a teenage girl named Betsy. On the surface, she appeared happy, smart. She had a lot of friends. She appeared to be loving and full of potential. She had a family who loved her. She got good grades in school. Lurking below the surface were things that Betsy didn't want to talk about, that she didn't share, that she was afraid to let anyone see. You see, Betsy was afraid or sad a lot of the time. She had anxiety, she had depression, she felt like she wasn't good enough, she felt bad, she felt like she needed to put a smile on her face and act perfect so that she could hide the pain that was underneath. By the time that she was in high school, living with years of this internal chaos, it led her down the pathway to fall for Chris. Like Betsy, Chris was smiley. He appeared to be happy and funny. And like Betsy, Chris also had a shadow side. He was an alcoholic. He was depressed. And unlike Betsy, he was often suicidal. And because this is often how it works, that like attracts like, Chris and Betsy fell in what she thought was love at the time, but really was just a toxic relationship. They dated for years, despite the concerns from her family, her friends, her teachers. And on the night of her graduation party, tragedy struck. Betsy and Chris had both been drinking that night. They had both been smoking pot. And Chris said that he was safe to drive, and Betsy didn't argue. Chris was driving way too fast, and he took this corner. The Violent Femmes was blasting, music playing. That's the last thing Betsy remembers. And the car flipped. The gas tank exploded, and Betsy's head was sliced open. And Chris and Betsy laid there, hanging from the ceiling in their seatbelts, blood all over the seats, unconscious. Lucky that one spark didn't blow up the whole pot until the paramedics arrived. That car accident left Betsy feeling even smaller than she had before. She felt sad, scared, confused, in a dark and hopeless place. She had just graduated from high school. She had the rest of her life before her. And even though she was a good student, throughout her college years, she struggled with feelings of hopelessness and worthlessness. She knew that her relationship with Chris wasn't healthy, but she didn't know how to get out of it. And every time she tried, he would threaten suicide. With the help of family, friends, counselors, she eventually got herself out of that relationship. And years later, she learned that Chris had harmed himself, and she wasn't surprised. That car accident left her in a state of chronic pain. Over the next 17 years, she literally became smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then, from that dark and small place, Betsy began to listen to the whispers that were deep down inside of her that had always been there, but she ignored them. She dismissed them because she couldn't hear through all the noise and the chaos of who she was supposed to be. And then what this whisper said to her was, Betsy, perhaps you were made for something more. And then she got curious, and she thought, what if all this stuff that you thought was happening to you is actually happening for you? And from this place, she started to think differently. She started to read different books. She started to study people's lives who had transformed themselves from crap to living their full potential. And as she did this, she got herself trained in life coaching to see if she could turn her own life around. And she started to feel more powerful, and she started to feel more hopeful. She learned about mindset. She learned about personal power. And she thought, what if I can use these experiences to serve? If I can transform myself, then maybe this all was for a bigger purpose. And as she had those thoughts and those new feelings, as she started to feel stronger, she started to feel mad. She was mad that she had spent most of her life feeling this anxiety and this depression. She was mad about that generational addiction and alcoholism. And she was mad that when she looked around, she saw suffering that all these other people were experiencing. And so what you can see here is that she took her family's dining room table, she took it out into her backyard, and she took it with an axe, and she just broke through that thing. That table that represented all that pain and that suffering, she used her anger, she used the power of her emotions, and as she broke through that table, she broke through all those limiting beliefs about herself and her life and what was possible for her. And it was at that moment when she allowed herself to feel all of that and to channel that anger and use it for a purpose that Betsy, the Fulfillionaire, was born. Here's what I know for sure. I was a psychologist in the schools for over a decade. So I was the one who did the testing with you folks, right? I put you through all those tests and wrote all those reports, looked at all that data. And what I know for sure is that you have way more inside of you. You have way more wisdom, you have way more insight, you have way more potential than a whole lot of people give you credit for. And today I want to walk you through a couple of exercises that were really powerful for me. And I want you to start to get that sense of what's really deep inside of you. Like those whispers that are deep inside of you. What really motivates you and inspires you from the inside out. So our job as educators is to access that. What inspires you from the inside out? And then teach you how to put that in action